everyone. This is Stephanie here at Constant Contact. And yesterday we had a really great webinar on writing effective emails. And today I wanted to go live today because we had a ton of great questions that unfortunately we didn't have time to get answered yesterday. So I do want to take some time today to address some of these questions because they were all really great. And if you didn't get a chance to watch the webinar, take a look at the description because that's going to be in the comments below, as well as some of the resources that I'll be able to let you know about for the questions that we did get. Hi, thank you so much for joining me. Now, let's go ahead and get to some of these questions. The first one I want to answer is the three-topic guideline for an email applicable even if you're only sending out emails once a month to your audience? Yeah, so yesterday we did talk about newsletters, and if you are doing maybe a monthly newsletter, to only include three topics in there in order to keep your emails short and sweet. So I would say no matter when you're going to create a newsletter with multiple topics, keep it to only three because you don't want to overwhelm people by providing too much information in there. So let's go ahead and let's take a look at the next question. And it's, what is a good way to build segmented lists? Honestly, there's a ton of different ways that you can go about it. Probably one of the easiest ways is actually to use our click segmentation tool if you have Constant Contact. You're going to be able to understand what people are interested in based on what they're clicking in your emails. So when you go to create a link, just turn on the Enable Click Segmentation tool. You'll see it right there, and I'll post a link in the description that has an FAQ for the step-by-step information, and that'll walk you through it. But basically, once people click on that link, they're going to be added into a list that you choose, kind of helping you to save time in that process so that you can still segment. And then later on, when you have information to send to that particular list, you'll be able to choose it right from the schedule page because they'll already be into a list for you. All right. Let's see what our next question is. Is an email to future customers less effective if they are only text only, no graphics? So in most cases, we do say that images as well as text are going to be the most effective because you can visually grab people's attention who are very visual and get them to continue reading. However, I have seen some success from people who only use text only emails. That's totally fine, but what I would suggest is definitely try it out with your own audience. See how it works for them. See if your opens and your click rates change open or go up or go down based on if it's text only versus images and text. But usually, especially for me, I'm a very visual person, so I would suggest having those images in there as well. All right, so let's go through some of these other questions. So yesterday I did talk about really a high-level formula for an email is to have a picture, a paragraph, and a call to action. Now, someone actually asked, is this applicable to mobile emails as well? And yes, absolutely. They say that sometimes large photos take up a lot of space in mobile emails, causing the reader not to read the rest. So I would say in some instances that can certainly be true. If you're finding that people don't seem to be reading your emails and you have some larger pictures in there, what I might suggest doing is double click on your image, go to the edit tool, and then you'll be able to use our edit tool in order to crop it. So instead of maybe a taller image, you have a more of a landscape image that actually crops it and keeps it a little bit shorter so you still have those visuals in there, because I do think they're very important for a lot of different businesses and a lot of types of emails. All right. So this next question says, I would love to hear more about the benefits of the newsletter format, which this person in particular has been using, versus the weekly email format that I did talk about. If I switch to a more concise version of my emails, is it worth it to still do a monthly newsletter format? So I did talk about this a little bit yesterday, but if you're going to do a newsletter format, I'd first suggest starting out by segmenting your list and asking people who are already there Do you want to receive a monthly email versus maybe a weekly email that's a little bit shorter? Because you're likely going to have two groups of people, especially a lot of nonprofits tend to want to send newsletters, which is totally fine. But you're probably going to have some people who don't mind spending a little bit longer in their email inbox in order to read the emails. And then those who are a little bit more like me, I like things short and sweet so that I can move on to the next email in my inbox and get it read. You can go right here to ask questions. Thank you so much. I see you in there, Loman Creative Services. Thanks for joining me today. All right. So, in terms of the benefits of the newsletter format, it's really going to depend on your actual organization or businesses. I have seen some businesses use them as well. So, definitely take into consider, also test it out with your audience and see what works best. One benefit to having a newsletter type of email, especially if you haven't done any sort of segmenting or anything like that, is that if you use the click segmentation tool that I mentioned a bit earlier, you'll be able to determine what topics people are interested in. And that can be a good start to actually segmenting your list to send really relevant content in the first place, which, by the way, that was a huge theme in the webinar yesterday. Here's a question that came in. I did talk about curating content, which is definitely great if you ever get stuck and you're like, I don't know what to put in my next email campaign, but I know I should engage people and send. So curating content is basically taking other people's content and sharing it with your own audience in order to continue providing value. And no, it's not like plagiarizing unless you make it plagiarizing. Remember back to writing a paper in college or in high school or whatever, you've got to give that original author credit so that you don't get in trouble, and you don't get in trouble by the teacher, and in today's world, outside in the work, so that you don't get in trouble with the actual law. So make sure that you're giving credit to the original author. So put in a link to the original source and use the author's name in there as well. That's a great question, and a very important question too, is just to make sure that we're not getting in trouble. All right, let's move on to the next question here. With social media marketing becoming bigger every day, is email still being used as much as it used to be? Absolutely. So email marketing has one of the highest return on investments. Now, if you think about it, email allows you to get directly in your contacts inbox, whereas if they're following you on Facebook, Instagram, or whatever, you're relying on a lot of algorithms, and those algorithms can prevent your information from being seen. So we say that they work really well together, email plus social. Emails because you can reach them directly, and social is going to help you to spread the word a little bit. So definitely keep that in mind, and we have a lot of great information on our blog on making sure that you're using them both effectively together because they play off of each other. All right. Let's move on to the next question, which is using a button for a call to action is recommended to include click here. Is it recommended to include click here or just more? So it really depends on what your call to action is. I would say you want to be very specific, especially if you're trying to get them to purchase a product. If you're wanting them to read more, you could put read more to continue reading this article or something along those lines. Just make it very specific as to what it is you want them to do. You don't want there to be any confusion as to what might happen when they click on that button. So I see your question in there. What social media tips would you recommend to build an email list? So if you're using, this is another great example of how they play so well off of each other, because you can definitely use it to build your email list. So thanks for asking. So on Facebook, there's actually a tool that you can find. It's an app on the integrations page. The Join My List tool, I believe it's called. But basically, you can add a tab to your Facebook page. Or what you can do is for some of those other channels that don't necessarily have an app or an integration, go out there to the list for the sign up tools tab, and you can go in there and you can create a landing page, and that's going to generate a URL for you. So grab that URL. I would actually suggest sharing it in the profile for the business, and I would also suggest creating some posts. You can have those posts over time and then also use those pinning or those favoriting tools depending on what social media channels that you're using. Also, be sure to check out, if you do use Constant Contact, check out the new the Facebook lead ads integration. That'll be under the tab there, but that'll allow you to pay for an ad basically and get those subscribers directly into your email list with some very specific targeting, which is one of the really great benefits of, promoting on Facebook. So definitely be sure to check that one out. Absolutely. All right. I'm going to move on to the next question here, which this person works for a healthcare organization. And I thought this question was actually very interesting. So this person says that my colleagues think it's important to share generic information such as what to do when you go to the beach, such as use sunscreen, stay hydrated, etc. Now, I personally think these types of emails are a waste of time. So, in a sense, I would actually say that those emails might be a waste of time because for a lot of health organizations, using sunscreen is probably one of those things that's kind of hammered into people's heads. Now, if your bosses still think that you need to talk about using sunscreen at the beach, try to do it in a fun little way where you have some sort of campaign that people can participate in, maybe sharing pictures of them on the beach and using sunscreen, or signing a pledge or something like that. Don't just share an article out there and expect them to read it. You've got to get a little bit more creative with that kind of stuff. I would also try to include, or try to convince them to include, other types of health information that'll be beneficial to your audience, because I would say that's probably hammered into people a lot. But I would also say that it's very important. Just a reminder, especially now that we're starting to get into the nicer months of the year and summer's coming up. So um, definitely, what I would suggest, if you're still having trouble convincing your bosses, do one that has some different content and do one that has what you've already been doing. Show them the stats side by side so that they can easily compare the results and see which one has an impact. Because my guess is a different kind, or even the sunscreen email that's done in a different way could have a much better impact than what it sounds like they might be doing. All right. So the next question here is, what is the best practice for resending to contacts when they open but do not respond? So that's definitely something that's going to apply to, or it's going to vary based on different businesses, I would say. But think about what your actual call to action. Think about if it's an end date, if you're trying to get someone to register by the end of the week for the training that you have coming on, because those types of things are going to have an impact. If you get someone to open up your email but they didn't take action, it's possible the design of their email didn't really encourage them. Maybe it just didn't interest them in the first place. Or maybe you need to try to engage them a different way. So maybe your first email was text. So I would actually try doing something with a video and do something completely different. I would go, in terms of timing though, I would go in this along the same lines as our emails to non-responder, that automated tool that you'll see on the schedule page. And I would wait at least 3 days before you resend another email to try to get them to take action. But just make sure you're changing it up, because obviously something the first time around didn't catch their attention. All right, I'm going to move on to the next question. This one says, I need help developing a strategy. How can I get help with that? First of all, I would say you're in a great place getting in touch with Constant Contact, because we have webinars like we had yesterday. We do things like this where we're really trying to help people. We have our blog. If you go out to blogs.constantcontact.com. And I also want to mention a new service that we have. It's called Marketing Advisor, that you'll want to be sure to check out. And I'll put the link in the description when we end today. But be sure to check that out, because that's a service where you can have a dedicated marketing advisor to have contact with on a regular basis, so that you can really work on building your strategy specific to your own business or to your own organization. So check it out, see if it's something that works for you. But otherwise, we also have a lot of great resources out there. So be sure to check out our blog and all of that information. Let's see. The next question says, is there a number of pictures, images to send to that is too much? Does the number affect the deliverability? So yes, I would say the number can definitely have an impact on deliverability, but taking deliverability out of the scenario, there are some businesses that are, of course, going to use more images than others. And some of our data or our stats that we've done, we've seen anywhere from 1 to 3 images, along with about 20 lines of text, having the most impact, meaning you're getting people to actually click to take action. So I would follow that rule first. But I probably wouldn't go any more than that in terms of deliverability, because some email programs, they're all a little bit different, but some might start to look at that as having a negative impact and it might land in the spam inbox. All right, just a couple more questions here. We're a nonprofit with a broad base of services and activities. My emails end up being long just to highlight everything that's coming up. Is it better to have one long email or to send multiple emails each week? So this is definitely something that can vary based off of your business as well as the audience that you're targeting, of course. So I've seen a lot of nonprofits want to stick with that newsletter where it's longer and it's once a month. But we've seen some really great stats, especially if you're trying to get someone to take an action like donate or to volunteer or to attend your next fundraising event, that you have one topic per email. So I would say if you need to do something specific like that, stick with the one topic per email. But if you have people on your list who only want one email per month, then I would go ahead and just have those people on that list so that they receive your newsletter email. All right. So the next question says, how do I do a survey type of email? And yesterday we talked about some ideas for content, including all of the different types of emails you might include in your organization's strategy for a business or a nonprofit. So you can use the Constant Contact survey tool, and you can link to that directly in your Constant Contact email. Just create your call to action button, and then you can put in that link directly in there. That way it links directly to that survey. We also have an integration with SurveyMonkey, so be sure to check that out. If you're in the Email Plus package, you'll actually see a block on the left. But you can also, once you publish a survey tool in a variety of other tools out there for surveys, just provide a link back in your Constant Contact email, and that way you can do it. Just make sure that in the body of your email, you're providing a little bit of information why you're asking for this information and how it's really going to help the reader, because you don't want them to think they're just giving you all this information. You want to use that survey in order to provide something back to them or to improve your services or whatever the case may be. All right. I know there is links on how to add videos, but only a thumbnail. I would like the video to play in the email. How do I do that? That's our next question, and it's actually a very common question. There is actually no way to do that within Constant Contact, and the reason being is because a lot of email programs, if you were to have an email in there that just plays directly in the email program itself, it would actually strip it out, or in some cases, it could end up in a spam filter. So that's why we have it so that it goes in and it links to the actual video. You can definitely send us feedback on that. I'm hoping at some point maybe email programs will get up, with the times, and we'll be able to more embed the videos and so that they play right there on the page. Because I do see if we were able to do that, there'd be a lot of benefit to that for a lot of businesses and just users of email marketing in the first place. All right. This next question is really good, and I've actually seen it over my tenure here at Constant Contact, which is actually over 8 years at this point. It says, what are your thoughts on using e-news in the subject line of an email? Is that something worth testing? So I know a lot of organizations who send out newsletters or these e-news types of communications, and for the subject line, they will use the same type of subject line. What I would say that if you are going to do that is to have like your e-news and put a benefit to this specific email that you're sending out. You don't want people to keep seeing the same subject line over and over, because if maybe they read emails based off of the topic that it is, which a lot of people are going to if it's relevant to them. You want that to show so that there's a benefit to them actually opening the email versus just e-news, April newsletter, e-news, May newsletter. I would try to stay away from very similar ones or using the exact same subject line. So try to change it up just a little bit. But I do also know that if you've been doing that for a while, some of your audience or your readers may have become accustomed to that. So that could be something that you test in your results as well. Did it affect your open rate? Did it affect your click-through rate? All right, I'm going to move on to the next question here. Can you have Constant Contact pull the name of the email to personalize them? So I don't have a way to show my screen right now, but I'm going to put a link in the FAQ after we're done here. Yes, absolutely. So what you'll do is when you're creating your email, click at the top where the subject line is, and you'll see on the right, there's the button to go ahead and personalize. You can add in their first name. You can have it pull in all of your contacts' first name, or you can choose from other contact details. And that is going to be really great because that makes the subject line more relevant to me. And that means that email that if I open it, it's going to be super relevant to my interests and my needs with your company or with your organization. So definitely something that I would suggest trying out with your audience. All right. So this next one says, can we set up the holiday schedule in advance? How far out? So yesterday I talked about, including emails in your strategy, whether it's more formal holidays such as Thanksgiving or the New Year's or Valentine's Day or something like that, versus, more fun holidays. And honestly, a lot of businesses could send emails that pertain to both of those. And really, you can schedule your emails out as far as you want. Basically, when you go to schedule your email campaigns, you can just go in, create it, go to the schedule page, and over on the right, you'll see the option to send later. Just choose how far out you want to send it in relation to that particular holiday. And there's really no black or white. It's what you want to get done or how much you want to get done ahead of time. I would say though, if you're celebrating a holiday, no more than 2 weeks out, maybe a week out would be the sweet spot, but that's also something again that you'd probably want to test with your own audience in terms of holidays. All right, I'm going to take some time to do one more question here to answer it. This next one says, what if you send a weekly newsletter with a lot of events? Do you need a catchy subject line? And I would definitely say you try to have as catchy of a subject line as you can, because if all you send out is emails that list out your organization's events, you definitely need something to change it up and to stand out from everything that you've done in the past. So maybe put your next event or tagline from your next event in the headline so that people will know that there's an event that's getting close or something along those lines. Just be sure to change it up because in most cases that's going to be the best option. All right, so I know we have run out of time and it is Friday afternoon, so I want to thank you again for Loman Creative Services for joining me and everyone else. Thank you so much, and I hope you all have a great weekend, and I hope we'll be able to do more things like this in the future. So if you have questions, send them to us here, or you can get in touch with us on any other social media channels, or even contact our support team. We're more than happy to help. Have a great day.